perhaps that plays a little part in it.
Yeah, I'm guessing as well with the touring that they're going to do soon as well around Europe and stuff. That's going to help as well. That they can do things with that. Okay, well let's talk about what was going on last week, Matt. Of course, the big thing was the whole draft, and we certainly made a few predictions. But Matt, I've got to say, coming out of both shows, slightly, I got to say, it wasn't exactly box office. It wasn't. There wasn't any crazy big momentous shifts for me where I was like, oh wow, that's shaken things up a lot. Like they called it the shake up, but I kind of felt like it was merely a stir or something like that. It wasn't too much craziness. I mean, for you, Matt, what did you make of it? I mean, we didn't get the any sort of major big star going over to each brand really in terms of what we're talking about. But I've got a feeling, Matt, that is because of the whole advertising that they've already done. That when they're going into Europe, they've advertised certain guys, on the SmackDown brand and certain guys on the Raw brand, and then you can't kind of like people and fans will go to one show just to see one particular wrestler, for instance, I don't know, John Cena or whatever, and then all of a sudden he goes on Raw. That's a huge problem if you've bought the ticket for kids and whatnot. So I can only imagine, Matt, that we didn't see any major ones because of that reason, and that might be the only downfall to having the draft that early. And I guess next year they'll know better. But what did you make of it overall, Matt, as a sort of, because I was expecting more from it, Matt, like sort of TV-wise. I was expecting like this is must-see TV, but it didn't feel like that at all.
No, I mean, I definitely think they've missed something big with this kind of opportunity they had. It didn't really feel so much of excitement like as a fan for this, because it just felt like they were doing this because they had to. Like, a few of their storylines and their superstars were running into dead ends with like potential opponents that they could feud with. So, and if they're looking forwards to reuniting some factions, put them on the same show. It just really felt like they were sort of covering their bases, tying a few loose ends up there. But as far as the actual show quality goes, like considering they're making this amount of wrestling, and it's this amount that WWE puts out there on TV week in, week out.
Sure.
This was the perfect opportunity to do something different and make a big deal out of this shake-up. And I would have loved to have seen a little bit more behind the scenes kind of working on this if they had like Kurt Angle on the phone to Daniel Bryan, and they were arguing over who they would swap and who they'd get in return and make a big deal out of their superstars. And it would even help some of their superstars like Kevin Owens if they said, well, you can have Kevin Owens, but you better give me someone big. Then I would have loved to have seen all that.
Yeah. I think that would have worked so much better as well. Some negotiating, some craziness with, you could have used some of the guys as well. You could have really elevated some of the guys, making them important when maybe they haven't been getting too much on TV. But let's just go down the list. I mean, we'll go through this as a summary. But I mean, Apollo Crews, Matt, going to Raw is that a major thing? I really think they need to. I mean, for me, with him, is he going there just to be a sort of enhancement guy, or is he actually going to be doing something? I don't know. I feel like they need to. I almost feel like they need to repackage him already, because they, just doesn't seem to be going much for this guy who's got so much incredible. He's got such an incredible gift. I mean, in fact, we were there the night in NXT where he kind of came out and debuted, and I knew him from the Indies, and I knew this guy was going to be special. But I feel like WWE creatively haven't really done much of his character to sort of want me to, or get anybody else to think this guy's cool, other than the typical babyface smile that just gets a bit old. Matt, do you see Apollo Crews doing anything elevated at all by going to Raw? Is this better for him, or is this just the same?
No, it's a bit of a real shame, really. I think the best move they could have done with him would have been to put him back onto NXT. I mean, I know people see it as a step back, but it isn't really. I mean, NXT is a great platform, and I feel like he was called up way too early in the first place. I think going to Raw Raw is the show that is more based around the backstage segments and, you know, getting yourself across on the microphone, not kind of Cruise's like strong points. And also, it's just like superstars galore, isn't it? Like all three members of the former Shield you got there, they're gonna like leapfrog. Yeah, you got Bray Wyatt there now. You know, I think there's just too much going on. Finn Balor's making his return. It just feels like there'll be slim pickings for him.
Yeah. Well, of course, we had the Miz and Maurice who come as a package. They were there. I mean, I know a lot of, the thing is, I mean, Dean Ambrose, I suppose, on paper should have been, or probably in WWE's eyes would have been like the big one. But, he didn't really get that feeling when he was there. I just didn't think that was, is he as good as what WWE actually think he is? I'm not so sure. I actually looked at Miz and Maurice as being the sort of standout stars that they got that night. And that, by the way, that's not that great, by the way. But they, for me, were the sort of the ones I was like, oh, that's interesting to see how they're going to be, because he's had a great year. I'm a little bit disappointed that he's not going to be on SmackDown to sort of like go to that next level on that show, but I do think they, both of them, might be a good thing. Dean Ambrose, Matt called it a bit last week, like, could we get a Shield reunion? I kind of rolled my eyes at it. I didn't want to see it. Now it looks like it could potentially happen. I'm not sure how much of a fan I would be of reinventing that, but of course he's the the Intercontinental belt as well and all the rest of it. So he's I mean, what do you make of Dean Ambrose, Matt, on Raw and sort of for him going forward with the brand?
I think Dean Ambrose is a solid wrestler. I think he's got good skills in that ring, and he's good on the microphone as well. Just something just doesn't really click there. I mean, he had his run as heavyweight champion, but I think by the time he got that, the fans had kind of gone and called on him a bit, because he was hot for a time. People were into him and buying into him, but then it's just like they did with Roman Reigns. They left it 6 months or so too long, and then the moment had passed, and then when he actually acquires it, it's just not what you was expecting. I just feels also a bit of a letdown now that he is on the mid-card level. Although he's a champion in that kind of level, it just feels like they've said to him now, well, that's your level. We gave you a chance. It didn't work out. Maybe better luck next time. It just really feels all too political in those kind of situations, especially when you look at other people. You've got Roman Reigns at the top of your ladder, and Seth Rollins climbing, trying to get back to that level. It just makes you wonder if Dean Ambrose ever will have an opportunity at the top again anytime soon. Yeah.
Well, okay, going down the list a little bit more. Kurt Hawkins, well, yeah, is what it is there, I think, that one. Kalisto's over there. Heath Slater and Rhino, I mean, that was... these are ones, Matt, that you get when the draft's been done and then you hear about on WWE.com that have gone over, but they actually come out on the night. These ones, this is the ones that were being traded. This is what we were supposed to get excited about. Alexa Bliss is there. Mickie James is on Raw. David Otunga is on Raw, and Byron went to Raw. I mean, I've heard it all now with that, and we've had that before where the announcers have done that. I don't know if that's a major thing or what, but I suppose, Matt, Bray Wyatt was the talking point. What did you think to seeing Bray there? And again, Matt, that it looks like they're going to restart with Balor and all the rest of it, but it's from what we're reading all over the place, it doesn't look good at the moment for this guy.
I mean, I might have been slightly unfair when I saw his face appear on that tight screen, but I remember something along the lines of what I said was, "Who cares?" You know, I think I shouted at the TV. I was like, "Oh, it's you again, is it?" And now I've got to see you drag Finn Balor down into this bog. It seems like there's a Bray Wyatt bog that if you're in a feud with him, you'll be there for about 2 months, or and then
maybe more.
Eventually you go back and forth, and then you win the big one over him, and it's just too predictable now, and there is no way that Balor is going to get into a feud with Bray Wyatt and not win at the end of it. It's just not even worth getting into in my eyes. It's so predictable.
Yeah, I wasn't really majorly for it. You know, I don't know. I just think it creates more of a problem. I still think, you know, I'm still going to call it now. I still think he should have won at WrestleMania. Still think he should be on SmackDown, but nonetheless. And then, of course, you know, we went to the SmackDown show, Matt, where we had Jinder Mahal. He went to Raw. Now, Kevin Owens is there, but then there's this stipulation with Jericho about, you know, if he wins the United States Championship, that means Jericho's on it. Sami Zayn is there, so, you know, potentially Matt Owens and Zayn again could be on the same one. The Shining Stars, Tamina, Charlotte Flair, I think we kind of saw that coming. We you know, definitely saw the New Day doing the move. And, you know, Sin Cara there. What was interesting then was the whole Rusev thing, and then Lana. You know, they're both there. I mean, who do you think overall, Matt? What show gained better? Do you think?
Oh, that's a tough one to call there, actually. I would say the acquisition of like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn is a really healthy injection of fresh new blood into SmackDown that they needed, because SmackDown is running off of a more limited roster, and there's only so many feuds they can go within a year. If they only do these, if they only change their superstars once a year, they're about reaching their limit of potential opponents that actually make sense and actually will be enjoyable to watch.
Sure.
So I think this will help them in the long run more, that they've actually got a few more choices to choose from now.
Yeah, I mean, I was glad Rusev's gone over there, because I feel like when he gets back, like, there's no way, like, you can't have so many of those guys on one show anyway. And I feel like you got Brock. At one point, you had Goldberg. Then you're trying to build Braun. You throw Roman Reigns into that. Like, Rusev's kind of persona is going to get nothing on Raw. But I think going to SmackDown, there's probably more opportunity for him. But then again, it all depends what WWE, you know, how far they actually want to go with this guy. Have they given up on this guy? I have no idea. But I'd like to think they haven't. So yeah, the whole shake-up thing, very, very underwhelming in my opinion. Wasn't what I was expecting. Very disappointed, because I felt like, you know, if they could have had the week after WrestleMania, which is always hot, and then you have another week, which is normally always terrible. So I thought by having a shake-up, it'll really get people invested. Like, this is the fresh new start again. But I feel like they really haven't used this at all well. And yeah, I don't think this would get people sort of going, yeah, we've got to stay tuned for another week to be on this roller coaster. I start to feel now, Matt, this is where people start to drop off. And, you know, you start to get that, you know, maybe their subscriptions, this is the moment where people start to think, nah, I've had my WrestleMania moments now, and that's as far as I'm going to take it. Because, you know, I feel like they really could have been onto something, but you know, just didn't really use it that well. And it, you know, it wasn't exactly must-see TV. Like, this is all stuff you could have catched up on, probably just reading it, to be honest with you, some of this. You know, with Shinsuke Nakamura, Matt, like, you know, the guys that have come up with him, now it looks like Dolph Ziggler, you know, one of our listeners emailed us in, like, why wasn't it Ziggler in the first place? Because they would make a better match. Looks like he's got his dream come true, because that is where they're going to go. But, you know, I'll say the same as I did last week. You know, as much as it's going to be a great match on paper, and I don't doubt it, I feel like it's a step down. I mean, Dolph Ziggler was involved in the freaking Andre the Giant Battle Royal at WrestleMania. You know, he didn't exactly do anything great in it. And, you know, I felt with The Miz at least, he'd been involved in something quite big, and I thought that was the way. I do feel like it's not the worst start for Shinsuke to get involved in, but I don't know. I don't want to see him kind of like in something